Welcome back. My name's James Johnson, and I'm here without my mom today. And if you haven't seen these videos before, I've read the first 5 books of the Song of Ice and Fire, the Dunk and Egg series up to book 3, and the TV show up to the end of season 5, and The Princess and the Queen, and the other one. I forget what it's called. So I'm going to be talking about theories and spoilers, so if you don't know that, if you don't want that, you might not want to watch. So in this particular video, I'm going to be talking about blue eyes. And I've written something that I'm just basically going to talk about. So why do the whites and White Walkers have blue eyes? Well, let's start with the central distinguishing characteristic of whites. They are the resurrected dead. Do we know anything or anyone else other than a white that is resurrected? Well, Beric Dondarrion was brought back from the dead. However, unlike a white, there was a part of Dondarrion's mind that remained, a consciousness, a free will. Each time he comes back, he has fewer memories, and in the show he even says that every time he's brought back, he's a little less. This, to me, is him losing bits of his soul, as if every time his soul leaves his body, it grows fainter in the ether. And though it is brought back, it has lost some of itself. This is even more true of Lady Stoneheart. She was dead for longer, so she has lost more of herself. She is now less gracious and less forgiving than in life. She is also consumed with a desire for vengeance. This, to me, implies that in those who are resurrected, the pieces that are most likely to remain are those pieces closest to the heart, closest to the self. Like Catelyn's desire for vengeance or care for her family, supposedly, or to Dondarrion, the mission given to him by Ned to kill the Mountain. Despite having lost much of themselves through resurrection, Dondarrion and Stoneheart both retained at least some of their original selves. Unlike the resurrected souls of Dondarrion and Stoneheart, whites have only their bodies resurrected, leaving nothing left of their original selves. They are mindless. They are soulless. This separation of soul and body is called dualism, and is also apparent in the concept of skin changing. In A Song of Ice and Fire, certain individuals can move their minds or souls into other creatures, even other humans. This mobility of the soul from one body to another is the same dualism we see when comparing resurrected souls with resurrected bodies. Note that about the resurrected souls, Dondarrion and Stoneheart, that they are bound to their original bodies. Similarly, those who skin change into other creatures are always bound to their original bodies. In the Varamir chapter, it says that once you've skin changed a wolf, which is technically warging, it's like marriage, it's for life. Skin changing a wolf is for life. Well, an even stronger connection exists between the skin changer and his original body. To a skin changer, his original body is his phylactery. P-H-Y-L-A-C-T-E-R-Y, phylactery, meaning the thing to which his soul is bound. As we also learned in the Varamir chapter, if you kill the skin changer's original body, he can continue to live on in the mind of a single creature that he's skin changed, but only once, his second life. Once that creature dies that he's living his second life in, the skin changer dies with that creature. Once his original body is gone, he can no longer skin change. Last chance. In fantasy, a phylactery is an object used by a lich to contain its soul and protect it from death. So if you were playing D&D, you might have a treasure box in which the lich stores its soul so that every time you kill its body, the soul resurrects the body and can continue to live on immortally. The Night's King's body is his phylactery. If the Night's King is a skin changer, then in this universe he is bound to his original body. And if he can also resurrect the dead, then he could, theoretically, resurrect his original body as a white, an undead creature, and then return his mind to his original but whited body, and live without death, or at least without the natural causes of death. The Night's King is and always will be bound to his original body. until his original body is no more, whether through salt or fire or being stabbed with Valyrian steel or dragon glass or dawn, whatever ends up killing him. So back to the wights. So the wights are a body without a soul. But they aren't just a body without a soul. Then they'd be lifeless on the ground. They have something else inside them. Not a mind, not a soul, a will. In A Song for Leah, Martin talks about the smallest sliver of existence that a telepath can sense, which indicates a thing is merely alive. Martin called this the I am. But wights don't really even have that. They are an empty shell filled with the tiniest sliver of something else, and intent, a will. Not free will, mind you, just a will. W-I-L-L. This can be compared with a slow loss of free will in both Dondarrion and Lady Stoneheart. The more of their soul that is lost through death, the more that only their will remains. This will is the thing they would strive for during life without concern for anything else, like honor for Ned or duty for Stannis. Their will to seek a goal without concern for whatever else is lost, pain, death, kingship, or family. For Dondarrion, it's capturing the mountain, because that's the last mission his liege lord Ned sent him on, and the first time he died was by the mountain, as Dondarrion was trying to kill or capture him. And now that the mountain is dead, so to speak, Dondarrion's goal is over, at least literary-wise. And so, Dondarrion gives his spark to Catelyn, a last gift to his liege lord. For Catelyn, her goal, her will, is vengeance on everything in this world that had anything to do with her pain. Because in her last moment, she gave up hope on anything and everything that ever mattered to her, so that all she had left was hope for vengeance on those who caused her pain. Then she was killed, and like Dondarrion, reborn, with less of her free will, less of both of their free wills, and more of their mere will. Instead of a mind or soul, the wights have merely this will. And this will, as we now know from the end of the Hardhome episode, is given to them by the Night's King when he resurrects them. So the wights have a will, but not a soul, not free will, not a mind, just a will. They are a dead body combined with the will of their master's influence. They are soulless thralls, T-H-R-A-L-L-S. In A Song of Ice and Fire, the term thrall is technically used to refer to a bound servant in Ironborn culture. But in real life, the term thrall is defined, in part, as a person in moral or mental servitude. You could say that Reek is the thrall of Ramsay, or that Stannis is the thrall of Melisandre, or that Davos is the thrall of Stannis. But the truest thralls of all, the ones without their own intense solar mind, the ones without free will, are the wights. These soulless thralls have no will but the will of their master. This is why wights have blue eyes. Because inside their bodies, where their souls once sat, only a candle remains, placed there by their master. In the cavernous abyss that once held their free will, only a small will remains. We are seeing the reflection of their emptiness, their absence of free will, their peace. The eyes are the window to the soul, and as Nietzsche said, if thou gaze long into an abyss, the abyss will gaze into thee. So unlike wights, if you are brought back from the dead, but some of your soul, your free will remains, you don't have blue eyes. Hence, Beric Dondarrion and Lady Stoneheart not having blue eyes. And perhaps, the more free will you have left, the more of your soul remains, the less of your body deteriorates, the less you rot. Remember that I mentioned the second life of skin changers, that they can die but live again, only once, in the body of another creature. Well, what happens if you are a skin changer whose body was killed so that you're now in your second life, and then your original body is resurrected? Can you put your mind back in easily? Or do you need the ability to wake the dead? What if you're not the one who woke your original body? What if you don't have the necromancy power and somebody else awakens your body? Does your mind just slip back in? Do you have to force it in? Do you have to move it like Bran chooses to go inside Summer? When Jon died, he put his mind in Ghost. He wasn't very experienced with warging or skin changing, and actually hated the thought of it. At one point at Castle Black, Jon can taste the bloody meat that Ghost is eating, and Jon immediately pulls himself out because he doesn't like it. Despite his aversion to it, I think we can safely assume that when Jon was killed, he put his mind into Ghost. And in my opinion, it is in anticipation of this very moment that Martin chose to have Jon name his direwolf Ghost, because Martin knew that one day this direwolf would be Jon's ghost. One good thing for Jon about putting his mind into Ghost is that it preserves his mind. Unlike Dondarrion, whose soul lost some of itself while out in the ether, and even more so Lady Stoneheart, who was gone for even longer before her body was resurrected, Jon's mind is being preserved inside Ghost. But when Jon's body is resurrected, even if by someone other than the Night's King, as was the case for both Dondarrion and Lady Stoneheart, because Jon is not experienced with warging or skin changing, Jon may be unable at first to move his mind from Ghost back into his original body. Ghost may not even be nearby when Jon's body is resurrected. And if Jon can't put his mind back into his resurrected body, then his body has no soul. So Jon's body will have glowing blue eyes. And if his body is to be resurrected without a soul, meaning not still lying on the ground cold, then there must be some will there. Not his will, free or otherwise, because he's not there anymore. He's in Ghost. So whose will? Well, whoever resurrects him. Just like the Night's King has power over his thralls, just like Thoros had, in some small way, power over Beric, and just like no one has power over Lady Stoneheart because her creator, Beric Dondarrion, died creating her. In my opinion, it will be Melisandre who resurrects Jon. So until Jon can put his mind back into his body is Melisandre's blue-eyed, soulless thrall. This is the exact same thing that Melisandre did to Stannis, only now it's fantastical. Stannis did to a great extent whatever he was bid by his red-haired master. He cheated on his wife, he killed his brother, he burnt alive his own daughter. This is what Melisandre has represented throughout the novels, and what she will represent up until she becomes a thrall herself to the Night's King, by giving up her own free will to join his kingdom, probably in the hope that she can have some control thereof, though she will have none, because in a perfect fascist dictatorship, only one rules. And Jon could theoretically be the king of not only the North, but arguably the king of Westeros. But that's exactly what Melisandre thinks she sees in the flames of Stannis, and now Jon. And Jon, the thrall, will become Jon Stark, though merely at Mel's bidding. Because to Jon, he cares about his oaths. But if it's not his body, his mind, controlling his body, then Mel can make him do whatever she wants, including taking the throne, which Stannis offered to Jon. And yes, Jon may also be excused from broaching his oath because he did die, which his oath technically frees him of. But did he die? His body is resurrected, and his mind is preserved. So, in today's world, we wouldn't say that you actually died. You may have flatlined, you may have gone brain dead, but not dead. And this is how Jon sort of escapes his Night's Watch oath, because it's not him breaking his oath, it's Melisandre through him. In addition, of course, to the Night's Watch oath, specifically stating it ends upon his death. And also, this is why we can kind of not blame certain people. Like, we blame Stannis, obviously, for what he's done, and we blame Stannis' wife for what's been done. Her uncle was killed, and her daughter was killed, burning, the horrors that are visited upon people. But we also expect humans to be susceptible to those kind of things. We expect people to take power over other people, to convince them to do stupid things, suicide bombings, belief in irrational things despite evidence otherwise. This is a common occurrence. And yeah, we can blame the people for making those choices, but I mean, the ultimate question is, when do you start blaming somebody? If a kid misbehaves and is consistently improving, but makes a huge mistake as soon as he turns 18, do we now say, you've crossed the line, all your choices are now your own? And that's what we've agreed to do for the most part. So where does that occur? If Melisandre is telling Stannis to do these horrible things, and she has this manipulative power, can we really blame Stannis? And of course we can. He's a grown-ass man. But we kind of expect that to occur. And by killing Melisandre, would Stannis make better choices? If it's rehabilitative, the purpose of punishment, then if he's rehabilitated by killing Melisandre, should we punish him? So Jon has not broken the oath because it wasn't him who did it, and he was arguably excused from his oath, and once he's back in his body, he'll take control. So Jon, when resurrected, his mind will be in Ghost, and Melisandre will have a blue-eyed thrall named Jon. That is, until Jon puts his mind back into his body, because he will slowly be noticing how much more like a wolf he is becoming, and he already has a visceral aversion to being inside Ghost. And because some horror will force him to return, just like it forced him to exit his body. He dies, and through some, you could even chalk it up to adrenaline, but fantastical, he puts his mind into Ghost. Not something he's used to doing, and certainly not for a second life, but it's what happened. Well, some horror will force him to return, whether the potential to his body, whether it be the potential death of a loved one, like Sansa, or the near death of even Ghost. And just like that, he takes on the role of Jon Stark. This is why the newly released Season 6, and I know all of this is theory, I don't need to say that, but I feel like I do. This is all theory. I'm making this up. It's all circumstantial evidence that I'm basing it on, and I can't know till I know. But this is why the newly released Season 6 poster doesn't show Jon's eyes, because he will have blue eyes. And later, possibly this season, return to his body, and thus no longer have blue eyes. As a side note, I told this theory to my mom, and she actually suggested that Jon will have red eyes, and I don't think that plays into the story. We have no precedent for it. It's ice and fire, yes, but I just don't think it works. Now, it may happen that way, but that, to me, is more out there than I already am. But Jon's coming back with blue eyes, in my opinion. In addition to that, there's as a final note, the Night's King had to have had a second life when he was first killed, before he put himself back into his body. So when he died, because they said, I mean, he was killed, in my opinion, that's why he's a White. He had to have died. Then he had to put his mind into something else, which is technically a second life until his body got resurrected. Now, I think that was the first time that was the first time he resurrected someone. When he died and resurrected himself and put his mind back in, now he had the necromancy. And it may not be that way. It may have been something that was genetic that he had before. In my opinion, the Night's King's second life was in his own child with the Night's Queen. But now that he's back in his body again, which was soon after that, whenever he resurrected his body, he could potentially have another second life after his white body is killed. Now, if, when the Night's King was killed originally, his genitalia was cut off, then he can't have another child. Bear with me. If his genitalia was cut off and then he was killed, or vice versa, he can't have any more children. This is important because the Night's King isn't the true heir. The true heir is the child he had with the Night's Queen, being the combination of the ancient Valyrians, the Proto-Valyrians, which is the Night's Queen, and the ancient Starks, which is the Night's King. But if his child was born without the genetics necessary to be a skin changer, then the Night's King needs his son to have a grandchild, a child, who does have those genetics, who can skin change. This is why the Night's King's son, Roose, in my opinion, must have sex with a skin changer. That skin changer, in my opinion, is Arya. When Roose rapes Arya, she will leave her body out of shock and enter Nymeria. This means her pregnant body will be comatose, much like Bran was in the first book, much like Drogo was in the first book. Then, so she's pregnant and comatose, and the Night's King is with his new Night's Queen, Dany. When the new Night's Queen is killed, the Night's King's motivations will change from wanting to offer peace to the remaining humans to wanting vengeance against them all, because this is his second life. It's his second chance to be with the woman he loves, because to him, Dany is the Night's Queen. It's the same person resurrected through rebirth, through multi-generational, whether he sees it in her personality, sees it in her face, sees all those things, but different color eyes. To him, that is his one true love. And he will have to convince her to join him. Once he's done so, though, and she dies, he's lost. Of all the peace he's tried to make for the whole world throughout centuries, he wants her more than any of that. And he wants peace a lot. That's what he really wants. But he wants her more. And when humankind kills her, because she switched to his side, he will no longer care about the remaining humans. He's got the ones he could save. The ones that remain are all sinners beyond rehabilitation, beyond retribution, beyond salvation. So now he's bloodlust. He's got bloodlust on his mind. The Dark Lord brooded high in his tower in a castle as black as the night. He feasted on bloodlust and envy and filled his cup full up with spite. So Roose has got to have sex with a skin changer. Excuse me, I'm looking at the wrong line. So Arya's body's comatose, much like Bran's. Then the new Night's Queen, Dany, is killed. Now, and don't forget, Dany couldn't have kids, and the Night's King can't have kids because he has genitalia detached. They're in love and immortal now, and they have a child, basically, through Roose having sex with Arya and Arya's comatose body. That child is the future of their kingdom. But after the Queen is dead and the Night's King is dead set on vengeance, if the Night's King's body is killed, then he'd put his mind into the one thing he cares about. Once his whited body is killed, he will choose his second life to be Arya's comatose body, because inside her is the future of his kingdom, his grandchild, who can walk and who has the lineages of both the Proto-Valyrians and the Starks. Now, with the Night's King inside Arya's body, we have an extreme skin changer, a necromancer, and a faceless man who is dead set on vengeance against all humankind, and he will have an undead dragon, Drogon in my opinion. And the final battle will be Jon on a dragon versus the Night's King in Arya's pregnant body on an undead dragon fighting for the future of humankind. Also, I still think I'm right that Cold Hands is the Night's King, and if true, then the showrunners made a conscious choice to give the Night's King blue eyes, probably because they thought the viewers would be confused otherwise. Again, I gotta say that all this is theory, and I don't have a clue for any of this. Just wanted y'all to know why I think blue eyes are important. They represent the absence of free will. A will, no free will, and it's the emptiness staring back at you, the abyss, metaphorically. All right, thank y'all for watching. I'm going to post another one shortly.